And we will start. I know we've all been exchanging some pleasantries, but for those of you who just signed on, welcome. It's good to see everybody. This is the regular update where I can provide you guys with what's going on, the status of things. And you can ask me whatever questions you want, and to the extent I can answer them, I will. So as of right now, as of today, we have about $75 million in the plan. There are, as of May 1st, 1,545 of you are collecting benefits, which is a monthly cost of about $966,000. So the plan continues. I mean, obviously the market is very volatile right now. So I do have a call scheduled in, I don't believe it actually, we asked for the call, Julie, but we have not gotten a date yet for that, have we? With the investment manager?
That's correct.
Okay. So that'll be soon, probably within the next week to 10 days, to talk about the investments and if we need to do anything to adjust or anything like that. Of the 76 million that we have, what you may have seen posted to the website recently was in the liquidating receivership. As you know, we were one of the, hold on a second, I hear some background noise. Okay. We were one of the largest claimants in the liquidating receivership, which is the old Legacy Hospitals receivership, Tom Hemmendinger as receiver. When I say we were one of the largest creditors, what I mean by that is that there were other creditors, in particular the Department of Environmental Management, as well as Beacon Insurance, who had claims. If you recall, prior to our last meeting, I settled the claims with Beacon, which was no money in, but no money out either. It was basically a walk away. They were going to take care of the claims as they were going forward. They weren't paying us anything, except they were going to continue to manage the claims that came up. And we were going to just walk away. That claim would be withdrawn from the liquidating receivership. That had the potential to be a substantial claim against that receivership, which would have reduced the amount of money that we would have been entitled to. So that's why that settlement was beneficial, because they withdrew their claim and it eliminated them as a claimant competing with us for money in that estate. In addition, there was the Department of Environmental Management. We went forward in, I believe it was the end of March, on a motion in front of Judge Stern. There were certain funds, charitable assets, that were being collected by the liquidating receivership, which we argued belonged to this plan and only this plan. We had certain arguments that said that even if we denied that DEM was a legitimate claimant, but even if they were a legitimate claimant, then they would not necessarily be entitled to those charitable funds. And we cited certain reasons for that argument. That hearing went on. DEM did not object. So we never got to hear whether or not they agreed with us or not. I assume by no objection they did. And as a result, the judge did a couple of things. Is he authorized or directed the liquidating receiver to turn over what he was then holding that he had collected from those charitable assets since his appointment, which was approximately a little bit over $1 million. And then directed that the trustee who's managing those charitable assets forward to me on behalf of the plan directly those funds. The pool of funds is somewhere close to $10 million. It might actually be over $10 million. So that is a consistent flow of money that had been going into the liquidating receivership that is now by court order going to come directly to us. It works out to be approximately I believe it's approximately $100,000 a month. It comes in quarterly slogs. And so we would be getting that money on a quarterly basis, which would come into the plan. Ultimately, I'm working with Wisto, Sheen and Lovely. We may make an offer to resolve that in the same way we did with the Charter Care Foundation. If you remember, we had an argument with Charter Care Foundation. There was some charitable monies, and we ended up settling with Charter Care Foundation, and they paid us over $4.5 million in lump sum, rather than fight about whether we were entitled to it or wait over time. This may be a similar thing, but we're weighing right now the benefits of possibly going in to get that lump sum. But as of right now, as a result of that hearing in March, we brought another $1 million plus into the plan, and that'll bring another $1 million plus per year until either we resolve it or until those funds deplete. So that's good for the plan. That's additional money in the plan. Hold on one second. I get some.
You sent Ms. Pennington this picture of Mr. Depp with ice cream spilled on him, right? That is correct. And you wrote.
Okay. All right. Let me think of what else. As far as the federal litigation is concerned, not much to report there. Nothing has happened. Other than there's been some filings. The diocese now has until June 3rd to reply to our most recent filings with them. This is on the summary judgment and motion to dismiss certain counts. As of right now, like I said, we have filed what we had to file. The diocese has until June 3rd to file a reply. And assuming that there is no further extension of that time, or we don't ask for time to further reply, if there was something that they raised that we feel we need to reply to, then ultimately Judge Smith will set that down for hearing and will ultimately have a hearing. When that will be, I cannot say. It all depends on the federal court's schedule, as well as, like I said, if the schedule right now, which is June 3rd, sticks, then we'll probably be looking at something likely in July from the federal court, but it could be August or September as well, depending on that schedule. There have been no, I know somebody will ask me, there have been no renewed settlement discussions. I don't anticipate there being any renewed settlement discussions until after the federal court has had an opportunity to hear the summary judgment motion or the motion to dismiss. I just don't feel like at this point in time that the parties have, or at least the diocese doesn't have much motivation to sit down. If we receive a favorable ruling from the federal court, then it's possible that the diocese will look at it differently, and it might make sense for us to sit down again and try to resolve it amongst us without the litigation. But I won't know that until after the federal court case, the summary judgment and the motion to dismiss are heard.
Okay.
Let me think. There's, other than that, PBGC has continued to just kind of sit and monitor and do whatever. They've asked for certain information, which they typically do every 6 to 8 months. We've provided that information. The last time that they asked was about 3 or 4 months ago, but no discussions with them beyond that, just providing information, which is basically a status update that they request. So that's really where we stand as of today. Happy to answer any questions that anybody has. Like I said, federal litigation, just to give a summary, we've got about 75 million. $1 million came in actually came in April. The court order was entered in March, and then the funds actually came in April. I'm holding those funds. They're not yet formally in the plan. Wisto, Sheen and Lovely has an opportunity to request that they be paid a fee pursuant to those funds. And so the court order directs that I hold them until the court entertains the fee petition by Wisto, Sheen and Lovely, which I believe, if it hasn't been filed, it will be filed in the next day or two and then set down for hearing no less than 10 days after. So that may be addressed late May, early June. Federal litigation, like I said, diocese has till June 3rd to reply to some filings that we recently submitted, some memorandum that we recently submitted. And we've got about 1,545 pension holders receiving benefits at a monthly cost of $966,000. And I'm going to be reviewing the investments based on the market's volatility and getting some advice and insight from the investment manager within the next couple of weeks. With that, I will open it up to any questions. If you're on mute, unmute yourself. Anyone?
I can.
Marilyn, go ahead.
Stephen, I'm confused about the number. You said there's 1,545 collecting. What happened to the number 2,700?
That's the number 2,700. That was the number when we started this, was the number of pension holders who were vested.
Okay.
So not all vested pension holders were eligible to receive, because you've got to get to your, you have to get to your retirement age, to the age. So the 2,700 is all vested. The 1,545 is those who have elected to start collecting benefits, who are eligible to collect benefits.
Okay. I was afraid we had lost all those people.
No.
All those people had died.
No, yeah, no, that would be horrific. And
I know.
I wouldn't just be giving that like very casual information on something like that.
Okay. Thank
All right.
you.
Sure.
Well, Steve, how many people have died?
That's, I don't have that. Is that John?
Yep, it is.
How you doing, John? I don't have that information. And the reason I don't have that information is it's very difficult. Bank of America is the one that really would be able to give us that information. And I've had multiple discussions with them. It's difficult to get that information. And the reason it's difficult is for a combination of the following reasons. One, when somebody passes away, unless we're advised, we don't necessarily know that that happens. We can, until we are advised, benefits continue to go. In addition, many pension holders have death beneficiaries, which means that even if somebody passes away, the numbers wouldn't necessarily reflect that because the death benefit will flow. And sometimes we don't find out about a death until several months later. So while it's obvious that there have been some deaths, I don't have that number. And I will tell you, the press has asked me for that number in the past. And I've been told by Bank of America, it's a very unreliable number that they'd be able to give me and very difficult to come up with. So
When someone who received benefits past their death,
yep.
and other beneficiaries, do you attempt to collect the money?
Yeah, you mean get to recover it back if they received checks where they were not entitled to receive checks? Is that what you're saying? Somebody passes away and they don't have a beneficiary, or some other reason why a check shouldn't go. We do. And I will say this is that, and there are no instances that I can think of. I could confer with Julie on a more detailed basis, but there are no instances that I can think of where we either weren't advised with money returned, or we were advised quick enough where a check did not go.
Cheat the motherfucker.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Figured what, if one or two guys steal?
Motion?
Yeah, I don't know if I know how to do it.
We still got 5 or 6 years there anyway. Don't collapse.
You're on mute.
Hi.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, thank you. I still have a problem with the beneficiary because has all the information that Ms. Stafford was asking for, we send it over, but I haven't heard any information at what this stage it is, the beneficiary situation.
Yep, no, I'm aware of that situation. Julie, have we had any follow-up with Kristen? Or
Yeah,
should we speak offline on that?
no. That issue actually should be resolved. Your beneficiary has been updated. So they don't need any more information from you, and their records reflect what you want it to reflect.
Oh, can I have any information, any sort of documentation of that? Because they added or corrected the statement doesn't mention anything. Besides I would like to change my daughter's name to as a trustee of which also because
Put his daughter's name down.
So, Julie, if we could ask Kristen to provide either,
Right. So I know Kristen did send an email to your daughter. She was communicating with your daughter about it. But I don't know if they actually have a formal document that they can send to you, but she did forward me some emails that that she sent to your daughter and that your daughter sent to her, which kind of show that your file reflects appropriately your daughter as your named beneficiary. But I can ask them if they can do a letter or something like that they can send to you so you have it for your records.
Okay, I've tried to directly to contact with Ms. Stafford, whatever the name is, and I wasn't able to get connection. She never really returned my call either.
Pathetic.
okay, well, we'll, as Julie said, we'll try to get Kristen to send some information either to us or to you directly.
I would appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Wayne, go ahead and unmute.
Thank you.
Actually, this is Peter. I'm Peter LaPrade. I'm actually this may sound ridiculous, but every time I hear of the Catholic Diocese of Providence receiving money for sales of property and things like that, it makes me very angry. And I'm hoping that you guys are keeping up with that. I would assume you would, but I recently heard that the former Carmelite monastery in Barrington was sold to the town of Barrington for $3.2 million. So that must have gone to the diocese. And I also read an article recently of how well the Diocese of Providence did throughout the pandemic compared to businesses all over closing. And also the prospect of them selling that $13 million mausoleum that they just completed building within the last year and a half, I think.
Yeah, no, we are aware of it. We are tracking it. Of course, we're in litigation. So there's no judgment against them as of right now. Hopefully we're going to resolve it. But there's, I guess I'm aware of exactly what you're talking about. There are additional things that we are aware of as well, and we are keeping track of it all.
Okay. I would have assumed you would, but every time I hear of a sale or more money going to them, it just angers me.
I'm sure you're not the only one, Peter. At least not, you're certainly not the only one on this call.
No.
All right. Thank you.
Sure. Any other questions? No other questions. All right. Hearing nothing. Oh, wait, I got Deb. Go ahead, Deb.
Hi.
Hi.
Like, how soon are we going to find out about the results of the volatile market regarding the funds?
What I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be having a meeting with the investment manager,
Yeah,
going over what the current investment structure is and what they recommend based on the market's volatility right now. Like I said, I'll have that call within the next 1 to 2 weeks. We've asked for it. They've told me that they're going to give us a date, but they want to prepare their report. Usually their report is dozens of pages that I look at, and then we sit down and we go through it. I'll probably have that information for you certainly by the next call. If there's something that is of significance that I think needs to be discussed with this group, then I'll obviously set up one of these calls before then. But we're looking at probably about 2 weeks before I get their recommendation. And then it usually takes about, because of different restrictions on certain investments and whatnot, it usually takes anywhere from 2 weeks to a month to make full transitions if we try to reallocate investments in certain areas.
okay. I have another question. There was 100,000 going,
Monthly, what was
Monthly?
the monthly contribution then?
Yeah, the charitable funds that are now coming to the plan that were going to the liquidating receivership, it's roughly 100,000 a month. It gets paid quarterly. It doesn't get paid monthly. It gets paid quarterly, but it's roughly $100,000 a month that comes in, that will be coming into the plan. So every quarter, I'll be getting, call it somewhere between 300 and 350,000 that will come into the plan, and then will come into me, and then I'll be reinvesting with Mercer through BOA, so that it'll benefit the plan. So call it, don't hold me to this number as an exact number, but about 1.2 million a year.
and that's the 10 mil, is that the 10 million from Hummingbird?
Yeah, those are
I'm in
various
Davis.
charitable,
You tell I'm
those are
hungry.
various charitable assets, and that's the money that is through the foundation that manages those charitable assets. That's the money that's distributed to I'll call it the old hospital. So now I'm going to be getting it for you, but it was being distributed to the old hospital. Some of the money was St. Joe's money, some was Roger Williams.
Right.
But that's what that is.
And that total is 10 million that we're going to slowly get?
I believe the pool of charitable assets is somewhere in the vicinity of 10 million.
Okay,
So that money comes from that pool. But like I said, I'm exploring with Wisto, Sheen and Lovely whether or not we want to try to resolve it and get a lump sum into the plan in the same way we did with the Charter Care Foundation, rather than wait for the trickle over several years. Rather get in a lump sum that we can use now to benefit the plan and invest.
okay. Do you have any questions? Thank you, Steve.
Thanks, guys.
Hey, Steve.
How long do you think the next meeting's going to be? How long do you have to wait to hear from you?
About 4 to 6 weeks.
Okay,
All right.
thank you.
Sure.
Thank you very much.
Can you hear me, Steve?
I can.
Am I open? My mic's open. Oh, my question is in regards to the pensioners as a group and Arlene Violet. Is the group still somewhat segregated? Arlene has a group, you have a group, or are we all in one package at this point?
Well, I
How's
get
that all working?
that's a good question, and I guess I'll put it I'll put it this way. I'm in place as the court appointed me, and I represent the plan and all pension holders equally. I guess I'll say I'm here for your benefit. Arlene Violet, Jeff Castle, and Chris Kalachi for the union have taken on the role of representing certain groups that have kind of a common interest in how they would like to see things done. Those groups were formed at the early stages of this. If you remember, back in 2017, when the petition was filed, they were asking for a 40% cut across the board. And different pension holders who had different status viewed how that should be done differently. Nobody thought that it should be done across the board, and they had a different opinion. That resulted in certain people going with Arlene who had a similar thought on how the pension, if it were going to get cut, how it should get cut. The union had their own opinion, and then Jeff Castle had another group. Those three attorneys represent collectively about 900 pension holders. But because I have not made any cuts, and because I elected to have this plan treated as ERISA, which means I cannot cut it at this point, those groups still exist, but are much more closely aligned now because there isn't that concern about whose benefit is going to get cut and how and why. So Arlene is still representing her group. Jeff's still his, and Chris Kalachi still his. But the reason for that representation has really shifted. It's all, everybody is at this point, for lack of a better way to put it, everybody is like-minded. I and Wistoshin and Lovely stay in relatively close contact with all three of those attorneys and get their input in things that we're doing. So for example, the hearing that was had in March, which resulted in that $1.1 million of charitable funds coming over. Jeff Castle, Arlene Violet, and Chris Kalachi were involved in those discussions and had input into whether or not they agreed with what we were suggesting should happen, and then actually ultimately ended up supporting it. So it was a collective effort, because while they don't represent the entirety of the pension plans, they certainly do represent the interest of at least, I'll call it, a third of the vested pension holders. And so it makes sense to have them at the table to have those discussions and make sure that they believe that the actions that Wistoshin and Lovely and I are taking are in the best interest of everybody.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Anybody else have any questions? I'll do my typical going once. This like an auction, going once, going twice. Sold. Okay, everybody have a wonderful week. I understand the weather is going to be very, very nice this weekend, so enjoy it. I can't believe it's been a long time since I've said this, but stay cool this weekend. And we will see you somewhere in the next 4 to 6 weeks, if not sooner, if something happens. Stay safe, everybody.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.